sleepy fox. Once upon a time, in a big, wide forest, there lived a fox. He was young and playful and curious about everything, searching for new adventures while learning new things every day. He was also very confident in himself and wanted to experience the world on his own. In the middle of the woods was a small den he could call his home, in which he retreated whenever he grew tired. Right now we have one of those times. After a lot of playing and a big full meal, the fox laid in his den, coiled up, resting his head on his fluffy tail. But while his body was tired, his mind was still racing. The thoughts in his head kept him from falling asleep, jumping between exciting memories and planned adventures. Our little fox shifted from his left side to his right, rolling on his back and turning on his tummy, just to repeat the cycle over and over again. Opening his heavy eyes, he gave up. With a stretch and a long yawn, he decided to go on a stroll to clear his mind and to find a way to get some rest. The sun was still up in the sky. He just wanted to have a nap after all, and he used the bright light to look for a solution for his problem. After walking for a bit, his yellow eyes saw something interesting. A small bug was building itself a cocoon with multiple finished ones being already near it. Thinking how comfortable such a casing would be, he started gathering a bunch of leaves, moss and bendy twigs. Fortunately, our little fox was quite the skilled craftsman, which allowed him to quickly make his own cocoon. It didn't take long, and he was all wrapped up, ready to fall asleep. After a few minutes, the fox began to freeze. Maybe he should have looked for dry plants to make his sleeping sack. Unfortunately, as he rolled on his side, it became clear that our fox had overestimated his abilities. A twig came loose and a self-made bundle fell apart. Annoyed by his failed attempt and now wet fur, he left the caterpillars behind and continued his walk. A short time later, the fox's ears twitched as he heard a chirping noise. Following the curious sound, he noticed a small colony of bats hanging from a tree. Having their wings around themselves, they rested peacefully. Our fox thought that if these small bats can sleep like that, then it might work for him as well. With his sharp eyes, he scanned the tree until he found a strong-looking branch. Sure of his plan, he swiftly climbed the tree, coiled his tail around the wood and let himself dangle in the air. After studying the bats a bit more, one of them gave him a questioning look. He wrapped his paws around himself to mimic them further. A few minutes passed, and he was still awake. The fox was uncomfortable in this position, and his mind started to doubt if this idea was really that good. But if there was one word to describe our little friend, then it is stubborn. Even though blood was shooting in his head and his face started to change color, he remained exactly where he was. And as small stars appeared in his vision and his mind became fuzzy, he thought that he finally found the solution. But soon he would realize that foxes weren't made to hang from trees. His tail was strong, that was not the problem. But as he heard a close crack, his eyes shot open as he knew what was about to happen. With a second, louder crack, his branch snapped off the tree and he crashed onto the ground. Luckily, the grass had softened his ungraceful landing a bit. The bats, who watched the whole ordeal, were very amused by this little show as he squeaked and chirped happily. The fox quickly got on his paws, shook himself, and left this embarrassing situation. His head, now crowned with a small bump, was even redder than before. Quite discouraged and still a bit dizzy, he kept walking. Hearing another chirping noise, he first thought that the bats had followed him to laugh a bit more. But the sound was less shrill and more melodic. It didn't take long for him to find its source. A nest was high up in one of the trees, inhabited by a small family of birds. The small chicks were cuddling themselves close to their mother, as she covered them with her white wings. Under this feathery blanket, their chirping slowed down as they fell asleep. Suddenly, a wave of sadness washed over our fox. He was cold and dizzy, and he started to feel lonely. Looking at the birds for a bit longer, he imagined how nice it would feel to be under those wings, before he decided to leave. He had spent so long strolling through the forest that the sun was already setting down. As he arrived at his den, just wanting the stay to be over, his nose picked up a strange smell. He knew someone was in his home. Slowly walking inside, he wanted to confront the intruder, which turned out to be another fox. The stranger had not noticed our fox, since he was sleeping. But not for long, as a growl woke him up, and the eyes of the two met. At first, the uninvited guest was scared, but as he noticed how exhausted and beat up our fox looked, he felt pity for him. Instead of fighting or running away, he uncoiled himself and nudged his muzzle at the spot beside him. A bit surprised, the tired fox stopped growling and simply stared at the stranger. After a second nudge, he snapped out of his confusion and decided to accept the invitation. He was way too tired to be angry, so he simply laid down next to his visitor. Without further hesitation, he was tucked into a gentle hug. Warmed by the softly breathing body next to him, he realized that even the bravest and most adventurous fox can need a friend who comforts him on a bad day. And now, with his head snuggled into the soft fur of his new companion, he couldn't help himself but to smile as he finally drifted into the world of dreams, guided by a slow heartbeat.